Hello and welcome to Philosophy 101, an introduction to philosophy. My name is Stephen Everett and I will be your instructor for this course. This is a video for everyone in the course, for those who may have already taken online classes at the college inside this D2L interface, as well as for those who have never taken an online class. This is a video for everyone. The first thing we can notice is that there's an updates window. In this window, throughout the semester, there'll be various links that appear. It'll say that you have a quiz that needs to be completed, or that you have a certain number of unread discussion posts. That will appear in this window in the form of links that you could click on. But what I would encourage people to do is just use this as a reminder to say, oh, yeah, I have a quiz I need to complete, or whatever, and then go find that quiz to do it using content or assignments, which we will talk about that in this video. So just once again, use the updates as just a reference to that you need, or a reminder that you need, there's something you need to do in the class, but not as a way to access those things. The reason for it is sometimes these updates don't distinguish between your classes. And so you could click on a link here to take a quiz. You think it's for your philosophy class, but it's for a different class that you're taking. And you don't notice that until you already have opened the quiz. And then you're like, whoa, this is not what I needed. And then the quiz will have to be reset and stuff by your other instructors, teachers, on and on. It can just lead to confusion if you try to actually go to the things you want to do in this updates window, especially if you're taking multiple classes with teachers that are using D2L. So the best thing to do is notice that there's something you need to do, but then access it through this content and assignments tabs. The next thing we can notice is there's a calendar. The D2L calendar can be helpful. Like, it gives information about when certain discussions are opening, when they become available, and when their availability ends. Things like that. That's fine. That can be helpful. But it doesn't give you everything that you might want in terms of being able to schedule around your job, around your other classes, things like that. It would be nice to have more information. That is provided. We can look over here in the welcome news post, and there's a document entitled Course Schedule. If you download and print out or save a copy of no other document this semester, this is the one you want. So what does it look like? Looks like this. This is the course schedule. And what this document is, in 3 pages, is the entire class laid out from left to right. For example, you have week 1, which is a week we're in. You have the dates, the span of the week that's on introductory material. It has this prompt that's letting you know this is what you want to look for when you're looking for the discussion for this week. It also gives you the lock and unlock times. These are the same as the available or the unavailable times. That at this moment is when everything associated with week 1 unlocks or becomes available to you, that you can interact with it, you can read it, you can download it, watch it, and you can complete whatever assignments are associated with that week. The lock time is essentially the ultimate due date for a week. Is that this is when quizzes and discussions and stuff lock down, and that you're not able to interact with them. You can still view past discussions, but you can't post anymore to them. And you can see that there was a quiz for week 1, but the link is disabled. You can no longer take it or complete it. The next column here is the material that's associated with each week. Of special note is these things with the SEs under them or behind them. Those are my initials. And what those are is the lecture material for each week. Of all the things you need to find each week is that lecture material, because we lean on it very significantly throughout the entire semester. And this is what your discussions are about, and it's largely what your quiz questions will be about. There are other supporting videos at times and other readings, things like that, but overwhelmingly those lecture videos and handouts are what's carrying the load, so that that's where you're learning about philosophy. So you always want to find those. They're marked with SE. We'll talk about and see how to do that in this video and locate all of this stuff. But one thing to note is that this class, this is the second semester. Last semester, I had to do a complete rebuild of the class because the college changed. They didn't want to use like a textbook that students have to purchase anymore. So there's an entire rebuild of this class that happened last semester, and it's continuing pieces of it this semester, and it will continue for the next few semesters. Well, what does that mean in practical terms? Well, it means that not every single week throughout the semester, not all the weeks will have a lecture video. They may just have the handout. And I am going through, like as everyone's in week one, I'm updating, trying to fix typos and add to, take away from the lecture handouts for the week that's coming up. So it's not that there's not handouts in every week. They're there. But what I would encourage people to do is focus on 1 week at a time throughout the semester. Look in, work with the stuff in, say, we're in week one, work inside week one. It's not that you can't look ahead and try to watch some of the stuff. You can, but the handout, especially, some parts of it may change from what, when you're in week one. If you go ahead and grab the week two handout and start reading it, there may be additions made to that handout. The elimination of typos and missing words and that kind of stuff will definitely be fixed from 1 week to the next. But it's like there could be stuff added to a handout that you might miss out if you try to get a week ahead. It's unfortunate. In the next iteration of the class, the next semester, that won't be a problem. But this semester, it's not a problem. You can read ahead and it's fine. And no matter when you read these lecture handouts, the quiz questions will be fine. I mean, no worries. But in terms of, I am doing updates, especially on those lecture handouts every single week. And so it's typically going to be best to wait till the week arrives when this unlock date appears to start looking through the handouts and the videos. And there is not a video for every week, not yet anyway. But there is one for about 10 of the 15 weeks. There's about 5 weeks that don't yet have lecture videos, and it just takes time to build classes like this. But you have more than enough to have a class, and it'll be a good class. Hopefully people learn a lot. But either way, it's just a heads up that there is a building process, a rebuilding process is taking place this semester. That being said, the lecture videos and materials marked with SE, you'll certainly want to always find that every week and read that carefully and watch the video if there is one associated with the week. The next thing is the assignments. There is a discussion assignment every single week. There's not necessarily a quiz every week. For example, there is no quiz this week, week one. There's not a quiz during the week that the midterm is in play. But many other weeks, there's a quiz, and it's listed in this course schedule. Also this week, there's an attendance and ID verification sort of activity that's associated with this week, which we'll talk about. But the way discussions work, just the big picture, is that every week a question or a set of questions opens. You read through the lecture material, watch the material, whatever else supporting documents are in a week. Then by around the middle of the week, it has Wednesdays at 7 p.m. If it takes you a little longer than Wednesdays at 7 p.m. to make what's known as an initial discussion post, that's fine. Wednesday, Thursday, as long as it's arriving around the middle of the week, you're in good shape. And then by the end of the week, you'll be able to go back and read what other people have posted and make peer replies. We'll say more about that in this video. But there is an idea that you're kind of reading and watching this material and have a sense of what's going on by Wednesdays, Thursdays, so that you can go ahead and start providing an answer in your reasoning with the discussion question. And the reason for the middle of the week kind of due date is so that everybody has time to read what everybody else is posting and have time to reply to at least 2 posts by their peers. And it's just, if it waited till the end of the week, there would be no discussion. It just turns into a task. So the fun part is the discussions, which is where we get to interact with each other. But in order to make that interaction work, you kind of need to have that initial post on the board by the middle of the week. So you can think of this class in terms of assignments. You basically have a discussion post that you need to have made by Wednesdays, Thursdays at the latest. And then by Saturdays, you're having your peer replies are completed, and normally you'll have completed a quiz. And so the class runs from one Saturday to the next. That's the way it works. At midnight one Saturday to midnight the next Saturday. That being said, we can scroll down, and that this course schedule shows other things. Like, for example, it shows that there are these extra credit opportunities. There's 2 during the semester. They're extra credits. You do not have to do them. They're voluntary. But if you were to want to do them, that you need to have them completed by the time that's listed of when they're due. The next thing is it shows when the midterm exam occurs. It shows when spring break occurs. It also shows when the argumentative essay, there is a writing assignment, a short writing assignment associated with this class, when the second extra credit's due, as well as the final exam when it arrives. So that's kind of the course schedule. This gives you the entire class, all 15 weeks, condensed into 3 pages. In terms of what you're looking for, and to know if you have this document, it's a whole lot easier to navigate the class and say, okay, yeah, I found the material associated with week 3 when we're in week 3, things like that. But this is a course schedule. It's a lot more detailed than the calendar inside D2L. The next thing is the actual news feed itself. We were looking inside this first news post. The news feed in the class behaves like a lot of social media news feeds do, where the most recent post is at the top. Things that were posted earlier are underneath the most recent. They're below. You have to scroll down to see them. So let's go through the ones that have made thus far. You have the welcome message. It's the intro. It's my name. And then it tells you how to get started in this class. The main thing is you're watching this video. If you're watching it right now, you're doing exactly what you need to be doing. Then it says to read through the syllabus and the course schedule, which we just reviewed or glanced at the course schedule. You can look at it in more detail after the video. And with the syllabus here, we will go through and talk through that near the end of this video. But you may not be as familiar with these 2 ways of collecting the information together. You may be more familiar if you've taken other classes at the college with this instructional package and course information sheet. In terms of what you need to succeed, know the assignments, the policies, everything associated with the class, what you have to have or need is contained in these 2 documents as well as in these 2. This instructional package contains a little more information. So what I would encourage people to do is look through these 2 documents this week, look through these 2, and then just pick a set. You can use the syllabus and course schedule and go through the whole class successfully. Or you can pick this set with the instructional package course information sheet. You can use them as your reference and go through the class successfully. Either set of documents will work. The reason that I provide it this way is that historically, most students find the syllabus course schedule format to be what they use and what they like to use. But if you prefer what's standard through all the classes at the college, by all means, you can use these 2 documents here. Either set's fine. Just pick a set and stick with it throughout the semester. The next thing, the OER, Open Educational Resource. That's what that means, or textbook. This is just it is a book provided totally free. You can download it as a PDF, or you can just use it and read it throughout the class. We use some of this semester. We get primarily, like I said earlier, the majority of the class is carried on the lecture videos and lecture handouts. But there are some usages of this throughout the semester. Either way, it's a book. You have it. It's free. You can look through it throughout the whole semester. Sometimes there will be pages assigned from it. But it's there. It's available to you. You don't have to buy any textbook for the class. This is provided, but also the lecture handouts and the videos. So there's no book that you need to buy. The next thing, how to email me. This is a 100% online class. So that means that we don't meet in a face-to-face setting throughout the semester. So our primary way of getting in touch with each other is email. Well, this is my email address. It's my name at httc.edu. That's the email I use. I check it every day. Normally, if you send me an email, let's say 8 in the morning on one day, by 8 that night, you'll almost always get a reply from me within 12 hours. But sometimes things may come up on my end of things. And so give me at least 48 hours, which is 2 days, to get back to you. If you send me an email and you haven't heard from me, hadn't received a reply within two full days, send me another email. Hey, I don't know if you received this, but I sent it. Here it is again. When I see your email, I'll reply it, read it, reply to it, answer your questions, anything like that. And if we need to do more than email, then we can always schedule a time to talk through whatever on the phone. But it always starts with email. Everything starts with email. And so it's good practice when you get ready to email me, just get out of this D2L system and go into your HTTC email, which is just a sort of, it's a Outlook, Microsoft-based email. But there's also Gmail. There's Outlook accounts that exist outside of the school or whatever. It's fine. Whatever kind of email, external email that you use, if you want to use it for this class, that's fine. The main thing is that you just send an email, make sure it goes to that address, and I will see your email and reply to it. That being said, we can go to the attendance verification activity. What is this thing? Well, there's 3 parts to it. The first part is just send me an email as soon as possible. Send me an email after you watch this video is a good time to do it. It doesn't have to be complicated. It's, hey, I'm in your intro class. Simple enough. And what I can do with that email is it enables me to verify your attendance with the registrar. And I need to receive this by midnight this upcoming Saturday because that's the time at which the school requires all of everybody's attendance to be verified, those who are staying in classes. If I haven't received this email and these other things by midnight this Saturday, see the due dates are the same for all of them, then I'm required to withdraw you from the class. It's not my policy. It's the school's policy that I have to follow. And it's based on the way federal law works with financial aid. Even if you're not using financial aid, a lot of people are. And so they just have established a policy that requires some initial contact during this first week. And so and also when you send me this email this week, it's the only time you ever have to send me any kind of attendance like email. You never have to do this again throughout the semester because after the semester, your attendance is tracked by completing assignments, discussion assignments, quizzes, and then that's how I keep up to date with your attendance in the class. But this week, we do need this hey, I'm in your class email. And what I'll do is I'll reply to that email. And then we both know that you can send an email to me. I will receive it. And then I reply and you'll receive the reply. We know that we have a reliable way of communicating throughout the semester. And we may need that at some point in time. If you save my reply, you can always reply to my reply and you know it's going to go to the right place. And then you don't have to keep entering the email address either. It saves you some time. But then that's the first part. Send me an email as soon as you can, but at the very latest by midnight this Saturday. The next thing is complete the discussion assignment for this week. We'll talk more about how that works in just a few minutes. The next thing is this ID verification. So what's going on with that? Well, this is for all students and all online classes at the college. That it's once during the semester you verify your identity. How do you do that? Well, essentially, it's a selfie holding a photo ID, your college ID, your license, whatever kind of photo ID with you holding it in the same picture. And you upload, like once you have that picture taken, you can just click this link and it'll walk you through the process of uploading the file, the picture file. That's all there is to it. It stays in this class. It never goes anywhere else. And this is, once again, this is a school policy. It's not necessarily my policy, but it is what the school is determined they're required to do to comply with the state and federal laws. So it's just something that they want everyone to do. But you do this also by this midnight this Saturday. So just to summarize that, pretty easy. You just send me an email. Hey, I'm in your intro class. Take a self picture with a photo ID. You upload it to that Dropbox link. That's not too hard. Then you do the discussion for this week by the end of the week. That's all that is due this week in terms of assignments. And the normal way of assignments is you have a discussion, you have a quiz each week. That's kind of the pattern, and it repeats week after week. The next thing is we can look at these tabs up at the top of the screen. You won't have these two. This is seeing the class through the way I see it, but there you will have tools, and so you can click on this drop down. And what is under here that you actually use? Well, basically attendance and grades. That you can check your attendance at any time in the class. You can also check your grades at any time in the class throughout the semester. All these other things, you can click on them, look through them, but the two that we're using the most is attendance and grades. And so how do grades work in attendance? When are they updated? Well, when you do a quiz or you complete an exam, your grade will instantly appear. You'll be able to know what your grade was immediately after you do a quiz or after you complete an exam. You go right after you've taken it, you can go to grades, you can see your grade. Now, discussions. I read everything that's posted in discussions after the discussion closes for a week. So, and every discussion closes on a midnight Saturday. So for this week, it's like the 18th. Yeah, January the 18th is when it closes. So after January the 18th is when I'm reading them during the week, but I'm going back through. I read the post, read the replies. That's when I post grade, and typically that'll happen on a Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday. So after the 18th, it'll be the 19th, 20th, or 21st. One of those 3 days is when I'll go through all the discussion posts that were made for week one, and then I'll post a grade. So your grades are always, for discussions, are about anywhere from a day to 3 days behind after you finished a week. It's quick return. And I keep it up to date throughout the semester. And at that same moment, when I'm updating discussion grades, is when I also update your attendance. So your quiz grades and exam grades appear instantaneously after you do them. The discussion grade and the attendance, that's lagging behind about a few days in the front of the next week. That's how it works. And I'm consistent with it throughout the semester. If there's something that comes up where it's going to be a Thursday before your grades appear, I'll make a news post so everyone knows it, that there's something going on. Speaking of which, just one thing I do need to mention about the news post is that more news posts will appear throughout the semester, and they will show up when you log into the class. You'll see it here. But always don't just stop at the first news post. Sometimes I may post 2 posts at the same time. And so look through the first new post that shows up, but also scroll down enough until you see another post that you know you haven't read or that you have read. Always read through posts until the point that you say, oh yeah, I know I've seen that before. It's just in case. And what shows up in news will always be relevant to everybody in the class. There'll be reminders about when a midterm's approaching. All kinds of things show up in news posts. So we did tools. The next thing is communications. You can see all the news posts that are made throughout the whole semester by clicking this. That's helpful sometimes. But this notion of email, you don't use this to send me email. We've already talked about how to send me email. You get out of D2L and go to your school email or an external email account to email me. This is email that goes internal to D2L, and historically it's not that reliable. Sometimes there's delays, and this could take 3-4 days to reach me if you email me this way. And then this is not the email account I'm checking consistently either. So you don't want to email me using that tab. Really, the only thing under communications that is potentially helpful to you is news if you need to see previous news posts. So with tools, it's just attendance grades. Under communications, there's the news tab. Now, assignments. Which of these tabs do we use? Well, just these top three. You have discussions, quizzes, and Dropbox. The Dropbox, what's under it? Let's click, see where it takes us. It takes us to the identity verification folder. So this is where, if you didn't use the link in the news feed and you've taken your self picture with your photo ID, you're going to upload it by the Saturday at midnight this week. You can, once you have that photo on your device, you can come here, click on it, and it'll walk you through the process of uploading it. But that's what's under here, as well as, I almost forgot, this is where you turn in what's known as this argumentative essay, which we'll talk more about that in this video. But this is once you've written your essay, you can come to this, which we're just under assignments, Dropbox. That's all we've done. And then once you've done your essay, there's another place or two in the class you can upload your essay, but you can always go here under Dropbox when you have it written, click on this, and it'll walk you through the process of uploading the file, the document or PDF, however you choose to save it. That's all that's under Dropbox folders. The next thing is, let's just look at, quizzes. What's under this? It's like we click assignments, quizzes. That's all we did is assignments, quizzes. And it's the list of all the quizzes in the class throughout the semester, as well as the exam. It's links to them. What's valuable about this is that you can see when these things are going to be available and when they're going to go unavailable, when they're going to unlock and when they're going to lock back. And so you can see this, you can look at this in comparison with the course schedule, and you see that these dates, they do match all the way throughout. What will happen, and this is kind of convenient to know, is that by the time you're watching this video, you'll have another box that appears here. Instead of just everything being in future quizzes, well, no, it'll be week 2. So this week you won't see this. You'll see it next week. Then once we get to week 2, another box appears that looks just like future quizzes, except it says current quizzes. And then your week 2 quiz will be in that box. And when the time comes, you're ready to take it. All you have to do to access a quiz is you click on the link. But only quizzes that only when these dates appear will the quiz link be active for that quiz. And so the way to think about it is, if it says week 2 quiz, this will be a quiz on week 2 material. There's not a quiz for this week 1 stuff, but you will encounter some questions about week 1 stuff when you get down to the midterm. That's one way to think about things. So you definitely want to read through and pay attention to this week's material, but it's just too much to have to do a quiz this week when you're just orientating to the class. I'm trying to give everybody a little bit of breathing room during this first week. And now, as you complete these quizzes, there will be, under this box will appear a past quizzes. And that's where the links will end up, and you'll be able to see it. But what you can do throughout the semester, which is helpful to know, is if you come into the class, you're on the home page, you're like, what week are we in? You can always go assignments, quizzes, and then look in the current quizzes box. And if your week 4 quiz is sitting in the current quizzes, you know that we're in week 4 of the class during the semester. It's just an easy way to always orientate yourself, as you can go assignments, quizzes, and that'll tell you exactly what week we're in. Whatever's in current quizzes is the week we're in. But you can also see, if you scroll through this, that there is a link to the midterm exam. There'll also be a link down at the bottom to the final exam. But it just won't be active until these day and time appears, until we get to that day and time. So that's all that's under assignments, quizzes. And you can complete them this way. You can go this way at the end of week 1 when you're ready to do the week 1 or the week 2 quiz, the end of week 2. You can come through assignments and quizzes and get here and take it. There's also another way inside content to do this as well. But so we've seen Dropbox, we've seen quizzes. What about discussions? What's under this tab? Under this is every discussion that you could post to throughout the whole semester. Which is just assignments, discussions, and you just click on it. That there are discussions that you don't have to do anything with though either. Like there's this any questions. What this is a sort of very unique special case that if it's like 3 a.m. and you've sent me an email, but you haven't received an instant reply, which you probably won't at 3 a.m. I'm very rarely checking email at 3, 4 a.m. If I am, something's going terribly wrong. But the idea is if you had a question, it's 3, 4 a.m, you're doing stuff and you don't know where something is in the class. And you think that maybe there's other people in the class right now too. Well, you could post your question and ask it here. And if that person knows the answer and they see that you've asked the question and they're feeling kind and they decide to make a post and reply to yours, you may get your answer quicker than sending me the email at 3 a.m. But for all other non 3, 4 a.m. questions, just send it to my email. That's the easiest way to do it. And just email me your question. I'll get back to you within 12 to 48 hours. But that's there. It is a possibility. The next thing is a self-introduction. It's voluntary. You can post to this if you want to. Just keep in mind, anything you post in discussions can be seen, read, replied to by anybody else in the class. So that's important to note without any questions. That's another reason that you're always better off just emailing me your questions, because you don't want to put anything about your grades or anything that you don't want everybody else to be able to see in this slot. And that any questions, it's better just to email it to me if you're unsure. Now, the week 1 discussion. This is required. This is a discussion associated with this week. And then it's like it says, the main thing is to do your best to read through the lecture material and be able to start working on this discussion by the middle of the week, around Wednesdays or Thursdays. Well, what's going on with this? Well, the question is, which of the various branches of philosophy do you find most interesting and why? Well, in order to answer this question, you really need to have already looked through and watched and read the week 1 lecture material, which was available this week. That gives you what you need to be able to answer this question. And that's what you'll find throughout the whole semester, is that the discussions assume that you've already looked through the lecture material and you've watched the lecture video when there is one, or you've read the lecture handout. And that these questions assume that you've done that. So you always want to kind of be doing that in the like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday part of the week, and then Wednesdays, Thursdays be ready to go ahead and post to this. You won't be able to see what anybody else has posted or said until you make a post yourself. So how do you make a post? Well, you just click on the link at the top and it will ask it'll come up with a box and it'll say start a new thread or post or whatever. You click that button and a text box appears, and then that's where you enter your answer to the question and your reasoning associated with your reasons for the answer. And that's and the idea of answering questions, providing reasons for your answers, that's described in this week's lecture material. So you want to look at it first, and then this will make sense of what it's asking you to do. And there's also normally in every week's discussion these potentially helpful comments, and you'll certainly want to read through them before attempting to answer the question. And it goes this way throughout the whole semester. There's like a week 2 discussion, and it has questions there's this week's question lower down. And as you go through, the question of the week's always in bolder fonts so you know what it is. And it gives you a sort of prompt in some cases, then the question, then potentially helpful comments. And we have a discussion every week. And the idea is, what is an initial post? You see that reference throughout the class? The thing that's due Wednesdays, Thursdays is your answer to this question and some reasons in support of it. That's an initial post. And we've already said to do that, you read the lecture material. Then when you're ready, you click this, start a new thread. The text box appears. You type in your answer and reasons, and then it'll have a button to submit it, post it. Sometimes the name of the button varies, but the functionality is the same. And once you've done that, you made an initial post. You do that around the middle of the week. Then, after you've made that post, you'll be able to see what their post and answers were, what branch of philosophy they picked, and their reasons. And then you provide that person with helpful feedback in the form of a reply. Well, how do you make a reply? Well, you just click on the person's post, as what you will be doing when you're reading it. And at the bottom of it, somewhere, either on the left side or the right side, they move the button sometimes, the D2L people do. But on the left side or the right side, once you've clicked on one of your peers' posts, it'll have a button that says reply. And when you click that button to reply, another text box appears, and you just provide the person with helpful feedback. Like if a reason they offered or an example was especially helpful to you, let them know that it was. You always need to do more than a simple I agree or I disagree. That won't get you credit for peer replies. You need to give them some feedback that you yourself would be glad to receive. And if you read a post and you say, well, I don't really have any feedback for that person, that's fine. Read another post. Eventually, you'll find somebody that you can say something back that's potentially helpful to that person. And you do that for at least 2 people each week. So you have an initial post and 2 peer replies are associated with the discussion of every week. Then you always can access it by just clicking on the link. But these discussions are also like the quizzes. They are only open and available for certain periods of time, so, during a week. So you need to complete them as we're going along. So that's what's under the assignments tab we've seen. We have discussions, we have the Dropbox, and we have quizzes. Those 3 tabs are what you use. We're not using these surveys, rubrics, stuff like that, just these top 3. Now, the large tab is content. Under this tab is where you find the actual lecture material. Like, I've mentioned it multiple times that you need that lecture material. I mean, that is the class. That's the spine of the whole class. So how do you find it? Well, no matter where you are in the course, you always have this navigation at the top. All you do is go to content, and then all of your lecture stuff, you look to the left side of the screen, and all of your lecture materials and course contents. We will look under that after we look at these other 2 tabs. The main thing is, if you've already clicked on things, you may have clicked away from the overview, but you can always go back to it by just clicking this. But the overview, you can read through that on your own time. But in terms of these 3 tabs, all these is folders. Sometimes they're called modules inside this online content or these course management pieces of software. Course management, content management software. That's what D2L is. There's 3 folders. And what does that mean? Well, that means that when you click on them, there's things inside them. And when you click these things, what's inside them shows up on this side of the screen. That's the basic functionality. And so let's just try that. Say, what's in the extra credit folder? Well, when we clicked it, this side of the screen changed. And at the top, we see extra credit. And then there's the due dates for the extra credit. And then if you scroll down, there is the links to it. And you treat these things, these are like discussions, but the discussions you don't have to do any peer replies for. You do what it's describing. And then when you've done that, you click here, type it in, and post it. But you just want to make sure that you're not doing and posting something that somebody else has already posted. And you will have everything you need to do this, and so you understand what the timeline is after you've watched this week's lecture video. So in principle, you could do this after this week if you wanted to. It's open, it's available, but it stays available, till the date that March 1st. The Extra Credit 2, this is open a little longer. You can look through this. It's kind of better to do this after we're a few weeks or 5, 10, 8 weeks, 10 weeks in the semester. And as long as you do it before the day it's due, if you want to receive the extra credit, it's available. Once again, extra credit is voluntary. You don't have to do extra credit, but it is here, and it does add points to your final grade. So it's worth doing. It can change an entire letter grade. What you have can be up to, upgraded to the next higher letter grade if you do both of them, depending on what your grade is. But that's extra credit. So we will hop over course contents and look at what's inside this Getting Started course information folder. Well, if we click it, the first thing to notice, rather than looking at the right side of the screen, look at the left, that it expanded. Like we only had 3 tabs. Now we end up with 3 more additional things that have appeared. Well, what are these things? Well, there's just a folder with folders inside of it. It's a folder with folders in it. And that's the way to think of this stuff. And so, well, how does that map onto what's showing up on the screen? Well, you have Getting Started course information, and you can see that it's darker than the background. Well, that's what's at the top. This is indicating where you are in this navigation and search tree on this left side of the screen. So you have Getting Started course information. It's at the top. Well, then the next ones, what are they? Well, you have course information. Well, there it is. And see, it's blocked off from the background. So it's like you don't see the file folder, but you see what's inside of it. But this is delineated from the background. Well, if this is working the way it looks like it does, under this should be D2L and Student Services. And indeed, if you scroll down, yep, there's D2L How-Tos, and you see it's separated off in its own block, and then there's Student Services. And so what you see on the left side of the screen directly, I keep pushing the wrong button, it directly maps onto what's happening in the middle of the screen. So whatever is darker than the background is wherever you are in the tree. This search tree or navigation tabs, whatever you want to call it. So, well, what is this stuff? Well, there's course information. And so you have a link to the video you're watching, link to the course information video. You can rewatch this video at any time throughout the semester. You also have a link, another one to the syllabus, another link to the course schedule. You also have another link to this OER textbook. It's here. So when those news posts, get layered on top of one another, but you want to go back and check any of this stuff, you can always do it through going into content and then the Getting Started course information module. This is a way you can always go back at any point and see what's in the syllabus, the schedule, things like that. There's also a link in here to NetEtiquette. This is useful. If you've never posted like on discussion forums inside a professional academic setting, which is what this is, this can be very helpful. It includes information like you always want to write in complete sentences. Not so much like in a text message, you may use abbreviations and things like that. You don't want to do that in a class like this. You want to write in complete sentences, use your standard punctuation, capital letter in the front, lowercase, period at the end, or whatever punctuation is appropriate for what you're saying. And then you want to kind of steer clear of all the different colors that you could pick for the font. That it's cool that you could do fluorescent orange as your font. The only thing is when you do that as your font color, that you could do that, that's fine. But in a discussion post, it can be very distracting. Like they've actually done studies about this, that people are accustomed to reading things that appear that look like what's inside normal standard books. They could have blue font, it could have black font, but black tends to be the standardized color that people expect to see. And what happens is they're not looking at the form of what's being said. They're just reading what it says. And that's what you want. People care about what you're saying in a philosophy class, not in the pattern that's associated with it. So it can just get distracting. Like if you write in all capital letters, And that can be distracting too if you're writing whole sentences in that. It's not that people can't read it, it's that it can be distracting and they not able to focus as much on what you're saying rather than the form in which you said it. And you want them to focus on what you're saying. So there's NetEtiquette, it's useful to see that. If you're not aware of these things, it's very helpful. I encourage everybody to check it out. The next thing is distance learning policies. Everybody that's taking this class is, at least for the time you're taking it, you're distance learning. And there are policies that go along with that. You can check them out. There's also the link that any questions, which is the thing we saw over in discussions, that those questions will be about what's in this course information, really nothing else. But like I said, you can always email me your questions. And inside this, which actually looks like a folder, I told you they're just folders. It may look different, but that's the functionality here. And that inside this is links to that course information sheet and instructional package. If you choose to use these rather than the syllabus and course schedule, there's alternative links to them there. Then underneath it, you got D2L how-tos. What is this? Well, if this is your very first online class using this particular graphical interface that we see on the screen with the buttons and stuff, that it's worth taking that virtual tour. It's a 30, 45-minute video. And it walks you through how this GUI, this graphical interface, how it works for basically any class. I mean, we're doing essentially a virtual tour of the class right now where I'm showing you how to find things, how things kind of work in the class. What this is just a more generic version of what we're doing right now in this video. But it can be extremely helpful to see how it works kind of in a generic way if you're a little confused or intimidated by working inside an online class. It can be helpful. So it's there if people want to watch the video. There's also this tip sheet, like rapidly how to find stuff, how to do stuff inside this D2L interface. Can all be very useful. It's there because it may be useful to you. Student services, this is just the beginning. These are just the sort of services that the college wants people to have in online classes, but there's so many more services than these associated with the school that you can find on the school's website. But some that may be useful is you have Tech Central, this is where the IT help is, as well as admissions, things like that. There's also services for distance learning students because you're taking an online class. There's a lot of things that the college, will do for you. There's a student success and tutoring center. There's library information. There's a testing center link, which we're not using this throughout this semester. You do everything inside the class. Inside this D2L interface for the class, but some of your other classes may be using this. If they are, there's a link to it. Also, the accessibility disability services. If this applies in your case, you get in touch with these people. They get in touch with me, and then we work through accommodations. But you always contact them first. There's Title IX services, there's counseling services, and so many more. These are just the beginning. But that's what's in course information. Now, what if you want these tabs to go away, though? It's kind of like, now I have all of this. It's a lot of things. Well, all you have to do to close the tabs is just click Table of Contents, and you see they all vanish. You just go back to the top 3 layers. And then if you really want to just clear this whole screen and go back where you started, you just click Overview. And then you're back to where we started. But now, the thing that is potentially the most important is what's under this folder, Course Contents. Well, when you click it, it expands. And you see it takes D2L time to even find itself. Because this is the most expansive tab on the screen. What it is you have a folder for each week. We're in week 1 right now. But you have one for 2, 3, 4, all the way down the line. Is now you've expanded all the way. So you see why it matters to know how to collapse these folders? If you don't want this the whole semester, so that it's stretched out like that on the side, the way you close it is just Table of Contents. Just click it and it closes it down. And then if you don't even want that showing up in the middle, just back to Overview. So let's answer the question, how do I find the lecture material? How do I find the weekly folders? We can go back to course home. You've logged in. And you're ready. It's after this video. You're ready to look at the week 1 material. All you have to do is click content and then go to look to the left side of the screen, course contents. You click it. It will take a second for D2L to do what it's going to do. And then you just click week 1. And you want to do that where you actually click on the week. And then because that opens and reveals everything associated with a week. You always, when you want to see what's inside a week, actually click on it on this left-hand side so it opens everything. And so what does this look like? Well, you're inside the week 1 folder. We are at this point. It gives you the dates of the week, just like we saw on that course schedule. You've got attendance and identity verification when they're due. What does brief about what's needed to do them. Then there is voluntary pages. Like I said, that OER, that textbook. These are voluntary. You don't have to read these pages, but they are available if you would like to. You have a copy of this, so you can read them if you want to. But you do not have to this week. They're voluntary. But also in here, this is where the lecture material is. You have the timeline. You have the What is Philosophy video. This is the lecture video. And then here's the handout. Now, what I'm doing periodically each week, given that as I'm editing and chasing down typos and adding things, taking some things out of these lecture handouts, I'm doing that before you arrive at the week that you'll actually need it. But I am making, modifications. By the week you're actually needing these things, they're what they're going to be. You don't have to worry about any changes. But like while we're in week 1, I'm down here in week 2 making some changes. So you may notice that throughout the semester. That's fine. During the week, you just use what's in that weekly folder and you'll be fine. Like I said, some weeks will have a video, some weeks won't. It'll just be the handout. But there's plenty with the handout, as you'll see when you start working through this week. There's plenty of information. There's more than enough for you to be able to read and learn a whole lot about philosophy and various philosophy people throughout the whole semester. But what you have is you have the lecture material marked SE. You always want to find it, always want to look at it every week, read through it, watch it. Then there is the discussion for that week. You can complete it right here. You don't have to go through the assignments tab, and content is here too. And notice that it's under the lecture material, meaning that lecture material is what you want to do first and then do this. And then under that, well, there is no quiz this week, so there's no quiz here. But then there's also this voluntary stuff. If you've gone through the material for this week and you're interested in reading, watching more, every week there is voluntary stuff that you can check out. But what does a week look like when there is a quiz? Well, to see that, we can just go to week 2. And then I've just clicked week 2, and you see at the top, there's the week 2. There's kind of the topic, Greek mythos and the pre-Socratics. There's the dates, and then you have a video and you have a handout, lecture material right there at the top. And then you also have some supporting videos like the Sisyphus Redeemed, and you have Kaiku, and then you have Schiller. And all of these things are they're all relevant to what's going on in the lecture material. So you'll want to check out all this stuff before you get involved in the discussion around the middle of the week. And then here's the discussion. You just, like I said, to participate in discussion, just click on it, start a new thread, make your post. Then you'll be able to see what everybody else has done, and then you can reply to people. But there's it. And then under the discussion inside contents where the quiz is located. And then under that, there's the voluntary stuff. Some weeks have a lot more voluntary stuff than others. If you scroll, see, there's quite a bit of voluntary things that you can learn a lot more about this stuff. And then that's the way it goes. Like you can pick any week you want, like week 7, for example. Well, there's things that show up at the top of the module. You have like week 7, Dark Ages and Medieval Philosophy. You have some of those textbook pages that are required that you read here. It doesn't say voluntary. So you'd want to read those pages in it. It tells you when extra credit is due, which is at the end of this week 7. If you want to do extra credit, then there's the midterm exam, and it tells you when it unlocks. But then there's a handout, there's a video, lecture material for that week. There's also this video about Rome, the fall of Rome. Also some other videos and handouts that you'll want to check out during that week. So it's not all just me talking with lecture material. There's other videos from other helpful things that we check out. There's the discussion, and then underneath that, there's a quiz. And also the extra credit that you would do that week if you wanted to. It's also a link to it's there. And then if you keep scrolling down, you're going to find some voluntary stuff. So each week you see there is a pattern, there's a layout. You always, in any of these weekly folders, you always have the title of it. You have any notifications of things, any textbook readings, any extra credit, exam stuff, anything that's different is noted here from one week to the next. And then you have your lecture materials always near the top. Then you have other supporting material that you check out during a week. Then you have a discussion. And then you'll have the quiz under the discussion. And any other assignment stuff that may be showing up in that week. But that's how it goes. And also now there is, over here, just to look at the left side, there is a folder associated with the exams. So midterm module, what happens if I click it? Well, it just tells you when the exam's open and when it's due. And it tells you to, you have material for weeks 2 through 7 in it. And then what happens is if you go to the final exam, with the final exam, you have weeks 8 through 15. So there's not a cumulative final in this class. It's like what happens is we go through the first weeks, we do the midterm exam, then it's kind of like you get to reset your mind and just focus on what happens after the midterm to the end of the semester is what you encounter test questions on in the end. So the class kind of has a half and half thing. As you focus on the first half, you take the midterm exam. Then you can reset your mind and focus on the second half and take the final exam. The final exam is not questions about everything from day one all the way across. That's not the way it works in this class. So that being said, we've looked through, kind of got a feel for what's going on in content. So let's make these tabs go away. I mean, surely we don't want all these things stretched. That's fine if you do. It makes it easier to come back in here and access it for some people. And you can leave it open. D2L will save wherever you were last. But you can close all the tabs if you want to. Compress them back down to 3. Then you always go back to overview and you're back to 0. So one more time, how do you find your lecture material? So you log into the class. You're on the course homepage. And you're like, okay, I need to get to my week 1 material. You just click content right there. Then you click course contents right here. Just click on it. Give D2L time. And then just click, say, week 1. And there it is. That's your lecture material for this week. There's your discussion for this week. That's right here. So we can close the stuff down just so we're back to 0. And then we go back to course home. This video is almost over. The last thing we need to do is talk about the syllabus. This document in this first news post, the syllabus. You click on this link, and this is the document you'll find. It tells you that the spring 2025, the semester, 3 credit hours. It tells you my name, email address, office hours. It says there will be more said about them in this video. Well, let's say some more about them. These office hours are just a start. That the school requires that office hours are posted. Well, this is a 100% online class. So what we do is you always just send me an email. Just email me your question. I answer your question. That was our office hours. That can happen on a Monday, Tuesday, Friday, Saturday. Whenever you send me an email and I reply to it, that's part of office hours. But if we need to do more, Like if we need to actually talk through something on the phone, like I determined that it'd be much more efficient just to talk through it on the phone rather than chasing each other back and forth through emails. What I will do is I'll ask you for a phone number and times that work for you around your schedule, and then we'll figure out times that work. We'll schedule the phone conversation and we'll talk on the phone. That could happen at Wednesdays 1 to 4, but it can also happen on a Tuesday, Friday, whenever works for your schedule. And mine is much more flexible that I can, set up and make the calls that work for you. And so office hours are basically whenever you need them to be. This is just a starting point. Will I be sitting at the computer waiting at email from Wednesdays to 1 to 4? I can be. If someone says they need me to be, I will be. But otherwise, just send me an email and I answer your questions, or we talk on the phone, whatever we need to do. So office hours are when you need them to be. Don't think this is the only time you can contact me. There's the information about that OER, that textbook. There's course rationale. Yep. There's the description. These prerequisites, you can look through this. If all of this looks like you've never seen any of this, it may be a good idea to talk to your academic advisor, whoever helped you sign up for classes, and that they'll let you know if there's something they need to get in touch with me about. We'll work it out. Also, if this is your very first online class, the school often wants people to take this orientation, which is just you watch a video, you answer some questions, and typically it's like that D2L virtual tour video that we've already mentioned. It can be extremely helpful. So some things, sometimes there's requirements that are like, oh man, what a waste of my time. This is not that. This is actually helpful. I mean, I had to go through this, but many, many years ago, over 10 years ago, when I just started working with Ori. And before that, I had to do it when I worked with the University of South Carolina. So I've been through many orientations, and it's just a thing you do. You watch it on your computer, and and some of them are not helpful. This, and the times that I've been with Ori, is helpful. So it's worth, if you haven't done this looks like you're unfamiliar to you, it's worth asking your academic advisor about, is there some orientation for distance learning that I need to do? And if you do need to do it, they will let you know. The next thing, this additional requirements, this is just a student code of conduct, rights, responsibilities that applies to the entire school. It's all the school's policies. The technical requirements. Yep, given that this is a 100% online course, you do need reliable access to a computer with a reliable internet connection throughout the semester. I mean, you have to be able to access the class and do the assignments. All this is in the internet, World Wide Web, virtual world. So you have to be able to access that. The attention, I'm definitely here to help and enhance your educational experience. That's what I'm here for. The learning outcomes. These are what happens when you put your work in, I put my work in, and this is what you have at the end of the semester. You will have achieved these as well as many more. And we do catch a tremendous amount of the history of philosophy, what philosophy is, many key figures throughout the semester. You get tons of exposure to all of these things, how to look at and examine arguments and claims, all of these things during the semester and more. But this is what happens after the semester's over. That's kind of the preview of what you'll be able to do, or what you'll be familiar with. Then the grading system, standard 9-10 point scale. The way your grade is determined, the way it works is it's in terms of final grade points. So every week with a discussion, you complete your initial post, you do your 2 peer replies, and you do it successfully, you get 2 final grade points. You're starting the semester with 0 points, and as you complete things, your points are add together. So if you did all the discussions and got 100% on them by the end of the semester, you'd have a 30 in the course. If you didn't do any of this other stuff, but you will do this other stuff. And so that's the symbols into your grade. Now, in terms of extra credit, I told you it can change your letter grade. Well, each extra credit, there's 2 of them that are available. They're voluntary. You don't have to do them. But if you choose to, that's half a letter grade that's added on at the very end if you've completed them. And that can change your grade from, say, a 65 to a 70, or from an 85 to a 90, and move your grade up an entire letter. And neither one of them is too difficult to do. And so it's worth thinking about extra credit in case you score a little less than you would like on some of this stuff. This can be a helpful buffer to protect your overall grade. Now, discussions, I've described this 3 or 4 times at this point, but there's a written description of it, and it tells you what's needed in order for your grade to count. That you need to say more than just I agree or disagree in order for a discussion to actually a peer reply to count. You just give people the feedback you yourself would like to receive, and you'll be in good shape. Now, what about a number of sentences, paragraphs? Is there some word count associated with discussions? No, not in this class. Some of your other classes may require that, but I don't. All that's needed is you write as many sentences and paragraphs as necessary to answer the question and provide your reasons for it, or to give a helpful reply to a peer. That may be 3 to 7 sentences. That may be 5 pages. Some people write a little. Some people write a lot. As long as it falls within these parameters, you're good. The next thing is participating in weekly discussions. It is a crucial part of the course. I will read and reply to various posts people make throughout the semester, but not everybody's post. I read all of them, but I reply to just a few every week, and just so it's not necessary for me to reply to everybody's thing. It would be counterproductive at a certain point. But if I do reply, you do see that I've replied to somebody's post, it's worth checking my reply out, because it will have information that's typically relevant to everybody in the class. So you always want to be reading all the posts and looking at the replies, and seeing the feedback people are providing one another, because that can enhance your own abilities. We learn from one another. I mean, that's just true in life in general. We learn from people, seeing how people do things, and if they do it in a way that's better than we did it, well, then we can learn from them. Or they have some insight that we've never thought about something a certain way. Philosophy is all about, learning from other people, and people having more insight than we do in particular moments in time. But the weekly quizzes, there's 4 questions, 20 minutes to take them. The questions are multiple choice, true, false. It's not a very difficult thing to do the weekly quizzes. The main thing is there are these timers. So when you get started, you're ready to take a quiz. Set this time aside to do it, because you don't want to be in the middle of a quiz and then stop and log out and come back 3 hours later. That 20 minutes will be over, and all that D2L will let you do is submit the quiz. So once you agree to take a quiz, you've got that time limit, and once there's a timer in the servers itself, and so it's going to run its course no matter if you log in, log out, or not. And the same applies for the midterm exam. And what are the midterm exam, final exam? They're just larger quizzes. They have more questions. That's the only difference. The formatting's the same. It's same multiple choice, true, false. Some of the questions you'll see on the midterm and finals you will have already seen in the weekly quizzes. Not all of them, but some of them. And you have 90 minutes to do it, an hour and a half. And it's over that amount of material, the first weeks of the class, the final exams, the last, half of the class. And now, what about, let's see, the important stuff. We've already said you do everything inside D2L. You don't want to attempt to complete these quizzes and exams on a cellular phone, because the way cellular phones communicate with the internet, there's lags and stuff that you don't notice, but they're there, and other things. There's different operating systems on different cell phones, and the D2L system, the testing system, sometimes gets confused with that. The software it loses connection, and then you can't advance to the next page. That's the most common thing. So in order to avoid any of that, You always want to do quizzes and exams just on a regular physical a laptop or a desktop is the best way. That if you try to do it on a phone, you're always rolling the dice for a potential fail. The connection to fail. And then that creates having to get it reset, reopened, things like that. It can be very inconvenient. So in order to avoid the inconveniences, it's best just to do them on a laptop and desktop. Now the timers, I've already mentioned this. When you get ready to take a quiz or an exam, there's a set amount of time. And so you just want to do it during that time and not be logging in, logging out, navigating away from the page. That's where the D2L testing software and the timers, they can just, you can create hassles for yourself that way. Now, the argumentative essay, what is this? It'll make sense after you do discussion posts. That all this is you're expanding upon something you have posted in discussion and you're putting it in this format. This is a standard 5-paragraph argumentative essay format that you can use, not just in this class, but other classes. You can use it with your job. It always works. It's one that I learned when I was an undergrad, and I've seen it. I've had to use it for 20, 30 years at this point, and it works. That all you do is you take whatever your discussion post was and you convert it into this format. And once you do a discussion post or two, you read through these directions and let me know if you have any questions. I'll be glad to help you. But it's just 3-page minimum, 5-page maximum. There's the formatting of it, and you just do this by this date. You can do it any point in the semester, but it's good to wait a few weeks. If you want to do this early, give it till week 3, 4, 5 after you've done discussions. And if you've done one and you say, hey, I can write this on that, I have more to say about it. That's really all this is a more expansive style discussion post. Just put in this introductory, body paragraphs, and concluding paragraphs. And it's a format worth practicing at once in a semester and being familiar with, because this is definitely used in philosophy. Every philosophy journal uses a format similar to this, but it's also used by sometimes with lawyers, with politicians. I mean, it's just argument. Anywhere there's argumentation, you can use it in presentations. You just make your main claim, briefly preview the reasons, then in the body paragraphs, address your reasons, then by conclusion saying, hey, this is what we've done. So the intro paragraph is, here's what I'm going to do. You do it in the middle, and then you tell people what you just did. That's the easiest way to think about the format. Here's what I'm going to do. I do it, and then I tell you what I just did. And if you kind of get a feel for that, this can help you in other classes, many other classes that you have to write papers in. It's a very good usable pattern. And so you do it once during the semester. Extra credit we've already talked about. So on to the next. Okay, the policies. Make-up policies. And it says here, missed discussion posts can't be made up. If you do miss a discussion post, send me an email. We'll go through there. We'll go from there. But in terms of quizzes, if you have some acceptable documented reason, you can make up quizzes, and the midterm even. If you were to miss it, every quiz and midterm and final, you have 7 days to do it. You have a whole week whenever they're available. And so normally people don't miss these things unless they just didn't do anything during a whole week, which that happens sometimes too for various reasons. But just get in touch with me, send me an email, and we'll go through whatever it is. Now, the one thing that can't be made up is this final exam. And the reason for that is as soon as the semester's over, the final exam is done, and I have sometimes just 12 to 24 hours to go through. I have multiple classes that I teach, and I have to update grades for all those classes, and there's just not enough time in a semester to be making up a final. That's the only reason. If I had the time, it wouldn't be a problem, but it's just not there. So you want to do the final exam definitely in the week that it's in play. You know, the midterms, quizzes, even discussions, person can have things come up and all, but that final exam, you definitely want to do it. It's better to let me know if you know you have something coming up, to let me know ahead of time, and arrangements can be made. It's better just to keep me apprised of what's going on. Now, disruptive, disrespectful behavior, simple enough. You just don't do it. And so, what's an example of this stuff? Is if you read a person's discussion post, you just totally disagree with it. You think it's stupid, absurd, whatever. It's fine. You just disagree with what the person's saying. So you can say that. You say, I disagree, and here's why. And give them reasons that they can improve with. It's not to tear somebody down, and just do this. Does it personally bother me if somebody says it's something that another person said is stupid? No, I'm in philosophy. We're very hardened to this kind of stuff. I mean, this stuff is not what bothers us personally. But the thing is it can be very disruptive and distracting, and it can take away from the educational experience that everybody else has. That's why it's prohibited in a class. And it's oftentimes it's more of a matter of taking away from everybody else in the class. That's why it's a problem. It's not what's said that's the problem normally. But if it happens, depending on the severity, it can be a warning, or a person can be removed from the class. They can be removed from the entire school with this stuff. So it's just not worth it. When nobody's, the assumption is not that everybody already should know everything. That's not the assumption for a class like this. This is a beginning class, intro class. The assumption is people know maybe nothing about philosophy, and that's fine. This is to introduce people to it. And so everybody's not going to have all the right or most well-formed ways of describing what they're trying to think and reason through day one. Some will. There will be some people that already are familiar with stuff like this. They'll be able to write posts that you're like, wow, that person really knows what's going on. Unfortunately, I don't. That's the way you feel sometimes, maybe, and that's okay. We're here to learn. You're not, and that's the idea, is to create the environment where other people can learn. And the assumption is people are starting out at zero. That they don't know much anything maybe about the material. That may be different when you get into the fourth year of philosophy. You're in philosophy graduate school, yeah, it matters. But right now, no, this is just, we're getting started. So the idea is to help people learn, not discourage them from doing so. Now, academic misconduct, this is plagiarism, cheating, stuff like this. It's just like disruptive stuff. It's just you don't do it. What is plagiarism? Somebody else wrote something, or even in today's time, artificial intelligence software wrote something, and you put your name on it and you turn it in as if you wrote it. That is dishonest. It's moreover, if another human wrote it with their name, you're taking their stuff. It's stealing. And moreover, you're not learning anything in that process. So it's kind of just messed up the whole educational purpose of a class. I mean, why take a class if this is, if a person's not going to learn anything in the class? So it's just best to avoid this stuff. In terms of cheating, it's just not worth it. This is the introductory level class. It's just as easy to do it yourself. Even if you're wrong sometimes, that's fine. There's plenty of ways to gain enough points to do okay in a class like this by the end of the semester. And if you're having problems understanding material, send me an email. Let me know. We'll talk through it. I'm here to help. It's not like you're out here on your own with a class like this. But so this, you just don't want to do it. If it's substantiated, you're definitely going to get a 0 on the assignment. That's a certainty. But then you can fail the whole course depending on the severity. You can be removed from the class, from the whole school, and then this is on your permanent record. So if you try to go to a college later, a different one, this follows you around. It's just not, this is like one of the big ones that you don't do. But either way, attendance. Technically, you're attending 3 times each week. But what does that mean? Does that mean you have to log in 3 times? No. Instead, what you do is when you go to do your discussion post, to make an initial post, you've logged in, you're making that post. Then, if other people have already posted, you can read their post, and maybe you find 2 people you can reply to right then. And you do so. Well, then you've attended 3 times. You only logged in once, but you've done the discussion assignment. And that's the way to think about it. When you've done the parts discussion assignment, an initial post, and made 2 peer replies, you've attended 3 times. Even if that just happened in one login event, that's fine. And also you complete a quiz during the week, things like that. That's how your attendance is tracked, is on completing the weekly assignments. And in order to do those things, you're going to be doing more than 3 things. And so that's your attendance. Now, what happens though? How many days or weeks could you actually miss in a semester in a class like this? Well, technically, you can miss up to 3 weeks. That means do nothing for 3 weeks to spread out throughout the semester. But if you go to that 4th week of missing it, you will drop under this required 80% minimum, and I'm required to withdraw you from the course. It's not my policy, but it's the school's policy, and it's like it says, federal regulations. It's like we don't get to just overlook that. But if you do miss a week or something comes up in your life, get in touch with me. You can make the material up. And once you made it up, well, you've attended. So it's a matter of completing the assignments is what matters. And so, but you don't want to run under this missing over 4 weeks worth of class, because I have to withdraw you. And it's not like I want to, but it's what it's required to do. Now and this is about doing that attendance verification, identity verification stuff, doing that by the end of this week. Like there's identity verification, there's attendance verification. We've talked about that. Technical issues. Okay, this is important in an online class, that if you click on a link in the class and you get like the 404 error that says file not found or something like that, definitely send me an email. Let me know. It's not good. It's helpful, because I may not have clicked on that link. I may have clicked on it before you did, and it worked fine for me. But if it didn't work for you, let me know so I can go. I'm the only person that's going to fix that in this class. And so, especially given that this class is in the process of me updating some of these lecture handouts, things are moving around a little bit, it's possible that I will overlook something and that a link may break during the semester. If that happens, it's no problem. It's inconvenient, but just send me an email. As soon as I see the email, I will absolutely chase it down and fix it. Whatever, the link's broken or whatever's happening, I'll do my best to get that fixed as fast as possible, because that impacts everybody, all of us in the class. So if you do run in, you click on a link, it fails, just send me an email, let me know, and I will fix it. Now, the last thing is these student resources. But also, if you're having trouble just connecting to D2L with your computer or something like that, let me know if there's any technical difficulty that's hindering you from doing your assignments, because I can work with you then. I can get you in contact with IT. I mean, we can work it out. Technical issues don't have to be during this semester. Like some semesters, there's snowstorms that take out the power. There's hurricanes. Like I tend to be in between South Carolina and North Florida, and it can be right in the middle of a hurricane that knocks out our internet for a week. I know how it works with technical issues in an online class. Done it too many years. And so just send me an email. Let me know what's going on, and we can work around it and get it fixed. You know, that's the best thing. Don't just go and wait till the very end of the semester, because then I may not be able to help you. The time runs out. But in terms of the student resources, you can check all this out. It's the same thing that's inside the class under student resources. And so you can look at it in the class. You can look at this with the phone numbers. But we have reached the end of this video. Now's a good time to go ahead, get out of D2L, go to your email, your HTTC email, Gmail. Just send me a quick email. Hey, I'm in your intro class. Then you're done with the very first part of attendance verification, and I'll reply to your email. But beyond that, I look forward to interacting with everyone this semester in discussions. And it is an interesting class. There's tons of interesting material, and I always enjoy it. And I look forward to working with everybody. Until then.